Mm.
Good
How
morning.
are you? Oh,
Good.
you're
I know where you are.
yes, you do know where I am. And you know what? If you are listening and tuning in and you know where I'm at, drop it in the chat. Let me know if you know where I'm at. Because if you know where I'm at, you've been with us for a while.
That's some OG status right there.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Because if you know where I am, you've been hanging out for a while. So drop it in the chat if you know. Um, I am super excited. It is kind of overcast here today, but I don't even mind. It is so green and so beautiful. And I have had a very, very active weekend. So I am excited to dig back in and get refocused and kick off this week with some positivity and inspiration. So, Kayla, what is our quote today?
Absolutely. Well, our quote today comes to us from C.S. Lewis, who I did not look up, but I know is some kind of an author. What did he
There we
write?
go.
Couldn't name it. I could guess, probably wrong. But anyway, he says hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny.
Oh, I love this. I think this is a good time to be talking about this too. At least for me, because I'm feeling some pressure and I love this. I have often I think it's true.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's true. I think that hardships do prepare those of us that are very ordinary for some extraordinary events. I don't know if it's a destiny or not. I struggle with that, but good morning, Anne Marie. Yeah, so I struggle with that a little bit. What are your initial thoughts on this?
Um, I love this quote. To me, if we boil it down, it's all about talking about the curation of resilience. And I believe that resilience is one of the most underrated I don't want to say character traits, but attributes, I suppose, that one could work towards because there's no easy pathway to developing resilience. Like it's 100% gonna be uncomfortable in some shape or form to get through what's required to develop resilience. However, it's one of those skills that like serves us so well in all aspects of life. But I believe we're in a culture today that significantly deprioritizes like the long term, like that delayed gratification.
Yes,
It's all about like right
right?
now ease and comfort and all of the things right now, and if it doesn't fit in that
Yeah.
box, then just don't do that.
Right. I think it was, I don't know. I feel like it was just last week, but it was probably 6, 8, 12 weeks ago. That I shared with everybody that I actually was teaching my son about delayed gratification. And he's in his 20s. So, the truth is that it is delayed gratification is I think a practiced behavior today. Um,
Mhm.
and we need to be aware of that. Because I think you're right. I can do hard things when I know that there's a trade-off, or I don't know. I even struggle saying that because sometimes I have to just do hard things because it's the right thing to do, and there may or may not be a payoff at the end, right? Like that's why
Well, yeah. I mean, I personally, I believe there always will be. It because I don't know. I believe in karma. So, I think if you do the right thing and the hard thing long enough, there something good will come out of that you would not have been able to get to if you hadn't done those good hard things. But it's often not a linear path or a do this for that type of situation. It's
yeah.
really investing in yourself with faith in the universe, and that's uncomfortable.
And I think too that some of it's not just faith in the universe, but it's um faith that the extraordinary outcome or the extraordinary destiny may be an internal destiny,
Mm.
right? Like
Mhm.
there's this perception that the destiny is something external, when in reality, a lot of times this amazing outcome, this amazing destiny. Hey Sarah, hey Michelle, hey Mary. This destiny is really something internal. And when we talk about hardships, I don't know, I have found that the hardest hardships for me have been those that are in conflict with the external world and in alignment with
Mhm.
my internal self, which I think is where, we take this a step further and say, when I stay in alignment with myself and do the hard things, then the extraordinary destiny really is a peaceful, calm soul and a good place for me, regardless of what's going on externally. And I think it's easy to take some of these quotes sometimes and apply them externally. And I think one of the things that we want to be doing here in Mindset Monday is making sure we're staying focused internally, because that's where our mindset really has the biggest impact, at least for me. I don't know. What do you think, Kayla?
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you bringing that up and kind of almost like regrounding us here because yeah, I think that particularly in talking about something like this, and obviously when we look at other people, it is, we're gonna see the exterior stuff first, and sometimes yeah, it's easy to forget to kind of inverse that for ourselves and make sure that we're focusing on the internal. But I just want to bring up the concept of self actualization here for a minute. Because, well, don't ask me to define it because I can't, but it's been on my mind lately. I have recently begun working with a therapist, and one of the things that she mentioned to me is she said that she's struggling to give me like tools or resources because my self actualization is so high. And I had to like sit and dive. I didn't know what to do with that information at first. I was just
Right?
like, okay. But then once I started to kind of dig more in and pick it apart, like I could see where she was going with that because I really have through years and years of working on myself. We've shared before, selfishly, I started Mindset Monday for me because I knew that making this a regular part of my practice would be good for me. And I felt like if it was good for me, other people could benefit too. So that's why we're all here. So I didn't
Thank you,
stop
Kayla,
with
for
me.
that.
But yeah, I've been working on this stuff for a long time, and like it's hard, and it's the lonely work, right? And it's like super
Mm,
unsexy, and people don't want to talk about it. But it really has gotten me to a place where I feel like I'm very tuned into like my intuitive inner knowing on things. I know where my compass is and I can read it. And I feel like I am finally stepping into the person I was put on this earth to be.
ah,
And
yes.
it's hard to put words around like saying how good that feels doesn't even like that sentence doesn't even stand up to it. But I don't know that we have quite the right words in English, or at least in my vocabulary at this moment in time. But I think what I'm trying to describe is that self actualization, and that's an extraordinary destiny, and it's one that is accessible to everybody. And I want to
Mhm.
say that because if I back up and think back to my operating system from years before, I think that there's a lot of conditioning. I'd love to hear if other people experience this too, but for me, growing up, it was like you could see all of these great people doing incredible things, and I was kind of raised in the belief that like, well, those are those people. Like there's something
Mm.
special about them
Right.
that made them able
Yeah.
to do that extraordinary thing. And I'll never be like that because I'm not them. And I really don't hold that belief anymore. Like I truly, when I look at people who I consider successful or have created something, you know, on a pathway that I'm interested in achieving a similar pathway, I look at them and I really feel like the only difference between me and them is time. And that I
Yes.
have that same capacity. But even just to get to that place of mindset was like all of this, like I've gone up against a lot of incredibly challenging things that I think we could really lump into the category of hardships. And I think there's, Nicole, you might be able to speak to this a little bit more. But I think there's a line, we don't even want to get religious, but I think there's a line in the Bible somewhere about how like God forges people through fire, just like how
Mm.
like you put iron in fire and forge it into steel. And like nobody wants to go through the flames, but it's so necessary in order to get that firmness that is required to be able to have the carrying capacity for these extraordinary loads. And the
Mm.
payoff is worth every ounce of the pain. It just doesn't feel like it in that moment or when you're staring at the
Moment.
fire.
Right, right. And this is where we go into the act of practicing, right? Because the fire is super hot. We're in the middle of it. And each time we walk through fire, I don't know, has anybody watched people walk on fire? Right? Like people actually do that. Like they walk
Yeah.
on fire, right? And physically you wonder, oh my gosh, how can they do that? Well, it's practice, right? And so the first time, you know, it's the hardest, but each time after each consecutive time afterwards, it gets a little bit easier and your feet get a little bit more desensitized to the heat and all of the things. And I think that this is exactly what you're talking about when we talk about hardships. You know, I mean, when we're kids, the hardships are what? I didn't have enough Fruit Loops. I had to eat Cheerios instead, right? You
Oh God,
know,
don't tell my
and
son that, or he'll be like, "What? We don't even have Fruit Loops."
you know, and as adults, you know, especially for those of us that are doing this challenging work in healthcare, it really is the training grounds for resilience because every single challenge that we face teaches us skills that nothing else other than experience can teach us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is so powerful, you know, that learning that and building that resilience and practicing that is incredible, especially in advocacy, which is the work that we do, because these lessons really help us stay steady and calm when others are overwhelmed and feeling chaotic, right? But
Mm-hmm.
we've practiced a lot of this, and so we get to be the calm for the storm for them. And I think that that is amazing. And that's where this mindset work is so important in what we do because it helps us stay centered on the big picture and what is actually important, not just from the logistics of what's happening with healthcare, but the emotional side of what's happening for patients and families, which is, and here we go, like is what the system doesn't have the capacity to help
Mm-hmm.
manage, and that's where we come in. And I think that that makes, I think it's beautiful. I think it's beautiful for us as individuals to be doing this work and getting our minds in good places for our own well-being. And on top of that, it's also the superpower and the gift that we bring to those we serve. That just feels so good to me, right? um, you know, what else does it do? It helps us um, create space for an extraordinary or extraordinary destiny, whether it's internal, right? It I find that hardships in my life um, motivate me to get pretty creative,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that that's something that's just a benefit of, again, turning hardships into um, stepping stones, or, taking them, I don't know, finding the value, I think is what it is, right? Finding the
Yeah,
value
well,
in those
I
hardships.
like to reframe it. Like it's super easy to look at a situation and go, "Oh, that's hard, painful, difficult. I don't know how I'm gonna do it." Like whatever negative adjective you want to pile on there, super easy to do that. I found incredible value from like, okay, first validating like that's totally normal human response. Lizard brain is trying to protect you from all of the dangers of the world, right? But then actively deciding to reframe that from that negative painful hardship into a learning opportunity, because I mean most of the time, granted, there's some things that are real threats to our lives, but for the bulk of the time here in modern day society, the things that immediately present as hardships at the end of the day, most of the time aren't threatening our direct existence, right? But
Right.
it can feel like that really easily because our brain is wired that way to recognize it. Oh, saber-toothed tiger. But if we can just like hit that pause and reframe it, maybe for what it actually is, or with a little bit more effort, with the positive lens as here's the gift I didn't know I needed to
Right?
learn the next skill that evidently I require for the next
For the
pieces of my journey.
Yes.
And and then the next step from that is to have a little bit of gratitude for that opportunity, even when you didn't ask for it.
Especially when we didn't ask for it.
And the good news is, like all things in this category, the more you do them, the easier they get. And it has like such a compounding effect. So, like the past 2.5 years since I started dipping my toes into what it takes to build a business has just been, it's been so phenomenal just for my personal growth journey. And there's so many things now that come up on a daily basis that like don't even rock me a little bit because I have built such a capacity for hard things. And that's the other thing that comes with hardship that I
Yeah.
feel like people don't talk about enough is like the more you do challenging, hard, painful, whatever things, it raises the bar every time for what is
Right.
hard, painful, challenging, etc. And I can be juggling bowling pins on fire now. I'm like, this is just what I do, like
Right. This
no
is
big deal. Yeah, and like that to me is just like so freaking cool. Like
yes.
things that would have totally thrown my whole week off. I'm just like, and I don't appreciate this detour, but now it's handled.
That's right.
And I
Yes.
think
I
that's
think
what it is. Like the people who have those extraordinary destinies or are in a similar place where you want to get to or have that impact that you want to be able to grow, this is the path because there's
right.
nothing easy about that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there is nothing special or innate about them that you can't learn.
Ah, I love that. I love this. I love this because this is all in my notes for today, Kayla. It's all about this hardship forcing creativity and understanding that the plan that we start with won't necessarily be the one that gets us to the finish line, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because that adaptability in the middle is knowing when to push, when to pivot, when to pull back, when to bring in new strategies, when to do all of these things. And if we aren't doing this work that we're talking about here on Mondays, getting really in tune with ourselves, increasing our self actualization, right? Then we won't be able to recognize when it's appropriate and time to push, pivot, pull back, or implement new strategies. Because so much of that is based on our intuitive mind, and in order to get in touch with that, recognize that, get comfortable with that, we've got to be doing this mindset work.
It's
that we
all
talk about here on
connected.
Mondays. It is all connected. It is all connected. Um, and that's what I think makes these Mondays conversations so valuable to me. So thank you. I mean, I know. So for those of you that don't know, Kayla came to me. I don't know. Gosh, how long has it been now? 2 years ago.
2 years. Yeah, we started in
Yeah.
August.
Yeah, it's been 2 years. So it was probably just over 2 years ago. Kayla came to me and said, "Hey, what do you think about doing this Mindset Monday thing? We have literally been doing this for 2 years." And I'm so grateful because Kayla, true to form, when we start doing things that are good for us, right? Kayla needed a partner to do this. We've been doing this, and now we have a full house on Mondays. We've got lots of folks here this morning joining us. Have a great day, Anne Marie. Sorry you had to drop off. So showing up and doing these things has been a game changer for me personally as well, as not just in my business but in my personal life as well. And it just really helps to keep things centered and focused and in a good space, like what are we doing this week? So let's see. We're getting down to the last probably 5-10 minutes here. Anything last that we haven't talked about, Kayla? We talked about everything in my notes, if you can believe that.
Yeah, let's start turning it into some action items. So
Perfect.
my challenge this week is to find those kind of caution flags that go up and that is a hard thing. My challenge is to recognize that moment and see how you can turn it around or lean into it. Like, okay, yes, let's redefine hard. Hard is not a negative word. Hard
Right?
as in
Yeah.
this is the next level that you get to move up to. Like leveling up in a video game. Like it gets
Right?
progressively harder, but that's not the
Right.
focus.
That's right.
The focus is on leveling up. So here we are trying to level
Yes.
ourselves up. So taking that hard thing and reframing it as your next learning growth opportunity and finding a way that you can have some true gratitude for it. Not toxic positivity, but actually finding something about that situation that you can earnestly say to yourself, I appreciate this aspect of it. And maybe it really is, I appreciate the learning opportunity here. And there may be nothing else you appreciate about that
Mhm.
situation. But the more you can reframe and retrain your brain to find the pieces of good in the sea of hardship or difficulty, the easier it is to weather that sea. And then the second thing is I could start a whole personal campaign about like hard things just like really need a rebranding in my opinion. But
Yes.
like
I agree.
for me,
I
if
do.
something comes up and you're like, oh, I don't know, that's hard. I'm like, great, go do it. That means you're off the right track.
That's right. That's right. You know what, Kayla? I think there's a lot to be said for that. I've said to my son for years, the easy thing is sometimes the lazy thing,
Mm.
right? Meaning
Yeah,
like it's
there's
easy
a,
to be complacent.
yeah,
It's easy to do those things, but that isn't where we grow, and that isn't the fulfilling, you know.
yeah, no. So
I,
this might help tie it in, but
yes.
when I was a teenager, I read Chicken Soup for the Teenage Soul. And one of the quotes, I don't remember who said it, we could find out, really kind of baked into my operating system. And it was, there are always two paths in life. One of them is easy, and its only reward is that it's easy.
Yes. I think we talked about that before
We
in some
probably
of
have.
our
It's one of my favorites.
archives. Yeah. Yeah, because it is true. It is true. The true rewards come from doing this hard growth work. And I agree with you. Hard things need a rebrand. I I'm 110%. There we go. Kathleen, I Can Do Hard Things. It's a book. I love it, by Jennifer
Okay.
Nettles. She actually gave us a link. Um, and I love this because we can all do hard things.
And if you don't feel
And
like
then,
you've done a hard thing lately, then you're paying yourself a disservice. And if all of this isn't speaking you today, then my challenge to you is go find something hard to do
right?
and see how
Oh,
you feel
oh,
afterwards.
right, right. The thing that I wrote down, and this might, I don't know, hopefully everybody gets something that they can go and take action on. Because the one thing that I wrote down in my notes for the challenge for this week was to look back over your life and identify one thing that you did that was hard, and how has it shaped who you are today?
Mm,
Because
yeah.
that's where I find the gratitude, right? Like, I may not have any idea how this particular thing this week is going to play out in 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, but I promise at some point I will look back and be like, OMG, that was the moment that made me ready for this one.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah. And
you know,
it rarely do you get that kind of epiphany through the hard thing. Every now and then I do. Like I'll be going through it and I can see the silver lining, if you want to say it that way. And it but usually not, and it's usually not directly afterwards either. It
right. It's
often is way later when you've had the chance to like fully integrate the experience and learn from it to your core, and then something similar comes up and now you have the capacity to respond or handle in a much better way, and it's like, oh, thank you for that.
that's right.
But if we
Oh
can front
yeah.
load
Yeah.
that kind of understanding and not exactly expectation for a specific outcome, but if we can front load that concept of like, I know this is going to serve me in some way, and
Yes.
so I'm willing to pay the price even though I'm not sure exactly what or when I'll be getting out of it. If we can bring that forward, number one, let's be honest, some of this stuff you got to deal with whether you want to or not. They're not always choices.
That's
So
right.
it makes it easier. And then, like I said, it levels up the bar for what's considered hard. And now there's so many things that I do that I think, if I, even as I share about stuff in my friends circle, people are like, oh my God. I'm like, oh, yeah, it's just a Tuesday for me,
Right. I know.
because
It's just
I
okay.
just keep like leveling up, frankly.
Mhm. And we all are. That's one of the things that I love about this community, is that we're getting to do this together. So, all right. So we are out of time. You've got 3 different challenges. Pick the one that works best for you. Drop it in the comments. Let us know. Have an amazing week. And again, if you got to do something hard, get it done. Like
Yeah,
the
just
payoff,
get it done.
just get it done. Just get it done. And there's we could talk for another half hour on that, but just get it done. And then talk to us about how you did that. And again, like I said, I'm really interested in hearing about hardships and how it's created you and put you in the place where you are today, and what that looks like. So go have a great week. Next week we'll be back here. I don't even know. What are we talking? Oh, next week we're talking about self-care and boundaries, which is always one of my favorite topics. We are super grateful that you're here and part of this community. We look forward to the next week with you. Drop in and see us on Wednesdays for our free call. Have a great week, guys. We'll see you right here, same time next week. Bye.